Hey, welcome to the channel. So behind me I've got my 2009 Range Rover Supercharged, and I've had a low coolant warning on my dash that's coming on for quite some time. This is our third Range Rover, and so this is not a new problem for me. And I'm gonna step a little away from here. We've got some wind out here in the driveway today, so I'm going to replace this coolant bottle, but let me just run you through a couple of things about this. So this particular series, what I'm doing would apply to any models from 2006 to 2009. And basically what happens is you keep getting this message, coolant level low. You check your coolant and you've got coolant. And so what's happening is, over age, the float inside your coolant bottle that the sensor reads the level from, it dries up and it drops to the bottom of the bottle and doesn't rise with the coolant level, and therefore it gives you the low coolant warning. So it's time to replace that bottle. When that happens, it's the only solution that works, actually. I've done this. This will be the third time I've done this, and it's solved it each time. So just a couple of heads up about this video as we get into it. I'm going to do an optional method where I remove the headlight. The previous two times I replaced the coolant bottle, or expansion tank as they call it. I did not do this, but it makes it a lot easier, and it takes 5 minutes to remove your headlights. So I'm going to show you that procedure. And the other thing is, I'm not going to show you how to put the bottle back in. It's very simple. It's just the reverse of the removal. So with that introduction, let's get started. All right, next, we're going to pull out this headlight. And the first time I did this, it was a little daunting. I had to replace a bulb and found out I had to pull out the whole headlight mechanism. But it's pretty simple. We've got a screw here, a screw here. Got one down here. And if I recall, I believe that's it. So those are Phillips heads. I'm going to get a little bigger Phillips this time. Loosen that one. That one's loose. Let's see what we got down here. Okay, I'm just going to pull those out and we'll be right back. All right, we have all the screws out. Do a little bit of wiggling here. It feels like I'm still attached to something here. Pretty sure I have that screw loose. It's falling out. Gonna grab this screw before I lose it. Okay, now I'm going to bring you around the back here. Got one connector right there. And I've got a detent button right here. Squeeze that baby and slide this out. Came off pretty good. All right, now we have some access area here. So as you can see, unfortunately, I just filled this coolant bottle 2 days ago. We're going to pull out this coolant bottle. and see if we can get some of that to drain into the radiator, and if not, we'll have to drain it. I know some people choose not to take it out, but I've replaced these before, and in fact, we're going to replace this one. I have that part coming as well. What happens with these Range Rovers is after so many years, which is usually, well, let's just say when you get 110,000 miles or so, there's a little float inside that works with the sensor and tells you what the coolant level is. And that float hardens over time and loses its ability to float, and it sinks to the bottom. And so you constantly have your warning come up on your dash telling you that your coolant level is full, even though you know you're not. And so that's what's happening here. So we're going to pull this out and check it and put a new one in when we put this back together. But I'll take you through that process. There's just a couple of bolts and then a couple of hoses. Just seeing if we can relieve any pressure to have our fluid level go down, but we're not so lucky. So I'm going to have to find something to drain this in. My bucket's not going to fit in there, but we'll do it a little bit at a time. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is we're going to undo those two bolts right down there. So this is held in, this is only held in by those two bolts, and then on the front side it's got, oh, you can see down here, it just slides into a slot on the bottom. So if we undo those two bolts first, then I'll be able to lift up the coolant bottle high enough to get something under it to drain the coolant out. So that's the plan. So see if we can do this while shooting a video. So I just got a long extension on my ratchet, and we're a bit at an angle, but it's not enough to need a universal joint or anything. Might be easier if I got a little more extension on my ratchet. So the second one, there's a hose in the way, so I had to pull that hose out of the way to get my extension in there close enough. So this is interesting. Let me show you this. This is the coolant sensor. It has fallen right out of the bottom of the coolant bottle. Now, I replaced this, so just because it was a $4 fix, I did that before I bought a new coolant bottle. But what's interesting is it just snaps into place, and the fact that it's fallen out, I don't know what that means, but it doesn't matter because I've got a new coolant bottle coming. But very interesting. Anyway, this comes out of the bottom, but this is one of the wires that we would have needed to unhook, is right here off the bottom of the sensor, and it would have been right here. So basically all you're doing is you push up on this spring right here, and then the sensor pops out, or it pops off the sensor. If the sensor was installed, would be a better way to say it. Okay, all right, now that I have those two bolts undone, so what we have here is we have just a protruding prong here that goes down into a hole with a grommet in it, a rubber grommet. And then up here we have the plastic part, the mount of the bottle, just has a slot in it, and it slips over a protrusion, so it should just slide out. But we won't get very far because we've got a couple of hoses holding us in place, so we'll kind of finagle with that for a minute. So the coolant bottle came off that easy. It just, like I say, it just slips right off. So we're going to take off this top hose first, right here, and that'll give us a little more wiggle room to lift up the bottle while we undo this bottom clamp down here, right here. So if you've never taken off these hose clamps before, channel locks are the best tool. I'm sure they make a specialty tool, but channel locks work really well. You just crimp those together, and then you slide it down the hose away from the throat of the mount. And what happens is the heat of the coolant will bond the rubber to its mount. And so you just need to take your pliers or your channel locks, whatever you have, and you just want to loose it, rock it back and forth till it's loose, and then you can start working it off. See if I can do this with one hand. You don't want to clamp too tight because you'll keep the hose from coming off. Once you get it started, then you can move your pliers out away from the throat. And it does come off faster than this when you have two hands. And there we go. So there shouldn't be any coolant to drip from this line because this is our feed. This brings the excess coolant back from the radiator and drops it back into the overflow bottle. And since our overflow bottle, top of it is empty, we have no coolant to drain out from the top hole. So the tricky one is going to be down here, as I already showed you. So we're going to do that next. All right, since my space is tight, instead of channel locks, I'm going to try my needle nose and see if they're substantial enough to this clamp is quite a bit bigger, and it's harder to get a grip on it with these, but yeah, it's a stiff clamp. All right, try the channel locks. Well, that just solidifies the need for the right tool. Okay, now this is going to be tricky because I probably have, I may have more coolant in that bottle than this jug will hold. All right. So, we got the clamp off. Let's loosen the hose. Okay, it's going to slide right off. So, let's see if we can keep our bucket underneath us. Here we go. So we'll probably have coolant come out of both the hose and the bottle. So we got to manage that. Okay, we're going to empty the hose first. So I'm plugging up the bottle, and I'm going to run out of room here because my catch basin is horizontal here with not a lot of depth. So all right, got our hose taken care of. Just set that out of the way. Now we're going to lift our bottle. Should have everything disconnected. Oh, it's going to be close. Okay. Looks like we need a couple more hands here. All right, so we can tilt the bottle now. Oops, lost a couple drops, but not bad. Okay, now can we get the drain bucket out? All right, mission accomplished. So this is all new coolant. So we're gonna reuse this. We remember we vented the top of the bottle. So that this will drain. It's got lots of little chambers in here. So what I'm doing is I'm trying to work all the coolant out. I guess that's good enough. I'm gonna chuck it anyway. All right, so let me show you, now that we have that out of the way, our sensor. You can see that. So the sensor just pushing this spring right here with your finger, and it just pulls off the sensor, which I'll show you that too. Vent cap and my lid. Turn this upside down. So this is where the sensor snaps in, and it's all encased, so nothing leaks. It reads it through the plastic, but the sensor would be right here. Let's see if it snaps in. See, that snaps in and it's secure, so, oh yeah, it just, I don't know if it's because it was an aftermarket sensor. Let's try something, since we're discarding this anyway. So the sensor would have been right here, and so we're just essentially unplugging the connector from the sensor, which is in the bottle. This is a replaceable part, but on these vehicles, you're wasting your time. It's the float that's inside that's the problem. Okay, I've replaced, got a brand new coolant bottle in there. And to solve that low coolant message I was getting. So thanks for joining us on this video. I know it's a bit long, but I wanted to make this detailed for those of you who are doing it for the first time. I hope you appreciate the detail. So keep on trucking.